I'm going to show you how to easily sync your audio faster with Timecode using your Tascam and Zoom audio recorders. So if you are a filmmaker that records your videos using a mirrorless camera and audio using a standalone recorder like the Tascam DR-10L Pro, or another recorder like the Tascam X8, X6, Zoom F2, F3, F6, etc., all of which support wireless Timecode with Atomos Ultrasync devices, this video is going to show you how to set it up so you can quickly and easily synchronize all of your video and audio that you have recorded by just clicking 2 buttons in your editing software. Does that sound magical? It's pretty darn magical. And to save you time, I've put together a cheat sheet that will show you everything that you need to buy and the settings to use to get your video and audio synced extra fast using Timecode. And I highly recommend downloading it because Timecode can get, in a word, complicated. We're going to do a deep dive in this video. Just prepare yourself now. Let's start with the equipment that you need. First, you are going to need an audio recorder that supports Timecode over Bluetooth, like a Tascam DR-10L Pro, an X8, an X6, or a Zoom F2, F3, F6, etc., as well as a Bluetooth adapter for your recorder, an Ultrasync Blue Timecode device, and an Ultrasync One Timecode device. Now I realize you're probably already thinking, Matt, I need to buy 2 Timecode devices? Yes, if you want to connect your DR-10L Pro or other audio recorder to a camera like an A7S III that I will be using in this tutorial, you'll need to unfortunately purchase 2 different Timecode devices. Why, you ask? Because the Timecode is going to be transmitted over Bluetooth, and as the Ultrasync Blue name implies, it uses Bluetooth, while the Ultrasync One unfortunately does not have Bluetooth, but it does have a cable connection that will allow you to connect it to your camera. So you basically need the Ultrasync Blue to communicate with your audio recorder and the Ultrasync One to communicate with your camera. Alternatively now though, if you have an Atomos monitor and recorder that you use with your camera, if you want to have a simpler setup, because Atomos owns the Ultrasync and Ultra Blue recorders, it's part of their company, you can buy something like an Atomos Connect module for your monitor that supports Bluetooth Timecode and instead have your devices connect into that. Unfortunately, I do not have an Atomos monitor, so we are not going to be covering how to use Timecode with that today. Just know that it is a possibility that may work better for you, especially if you already own an Atomos monitor. Do you see why I made a cheat sheet that you can download now? There's a lot of equipment and it's probably going to be easier for you to look at it all if it's written out on a page. Anyways, at this point you have your audio recorder with Bluetooth adapter, which for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be using the Tascam DR-10L Pro, but everything that I'm about to show you is also going to apply to any other audio recorder that works with Timecode over Bluetooth. Next, you have your Ultrasync Blue, you have your Ultrasync One. All that is missing is a camera. In my case, I'm using a Sony A7S III, which does support Timecode, but only through the microphone jack. Alternatively though, if you are using a camera like a Sony FX3, that camera can take a dedicated Timecode cable into the micro USB port on the camera, which will then give you Timecode metadata instead of Timecode audio data. For the sake of this video though, we're going to be doing Timecode through the microphone jack. So first thing you're going to want to do is turn on your Ultrasync Blue by holding down the big select button. Side note, none of the buttons on this device are labeled, but for the sake of this video, we will call this big button the select button, and the left buttons the up and down buttons. Once you turn on the Ultrasync Blue, it will immediately start running and generating Timecode. Next, press the select button on the Ultrasync Blue, select Timecode, and the first thing that you're going to want to select is the frame rate that you want to record your video in. Yes, Timecode is very dependent on the frame rate that you are filming in, and ideally, if you want to use Timecode, that means you will not be changing your frame rate throughout the video that you are filming, but instead you will be using the same frame rate. If you want to change your frame rate, you can do that, but you will then need to go into your Ultrasync Blue every single time and make sure that your frame rate is updated and that all of your other devices are synchronized to that frame rate. This can be a bit of a pain. So if you are filming something like a wedding and you want to make sure that all of your audio is properly synchronized, you are ideally going to want to film everything at the same frame rate. And I hear you now saying, Matt, I'm a filmmaker that loves to film at 60 frames per second so I can make things super cool, dramatic, slow motion. That's great. I like to do the same thing, but this is also where you're going to run into one of the first complications when it comes to Timecode, in that Timecode as a standard does not officially support high frame rate recording like at 60 frames per second. 30 FPS is the max. Thankfully, you can still use timecode with higher frame rate video as long as the frame rate that you choose to film in is exactly double the timecode that you choose to use. So in this case, if you wanted to film at 59.94 frames per second, aka 60 FPS, you would want to select a frame rate of 29.97 on your timecode device. Then you would still be able to sync all of your audio and video in post. Just keep in mind that this technique of filming in a frame rate that is double the timecode that you're using is only going to work if you are using a camera with a dedicated timecode input, like an FX3 that we just talked about earlier, and not a camera that requires you to use an audio channel for timecode like the A7S III that I am using in this video. So in this example, I'm going to be selecting 29.97 drop frame, which will match up with the frame rate that I plan on filming with my camera. Next, you're going to want to select Bluetooth, and the Ultrasync Blue will tell you that it is searching for something to connect to. Then grab your DR-10L Pro, make sure that it has the Bluetooth adapter inserted and powered on. Go to menu 25, which is the Bluetooth menu, and press enter and select timecode. The DR-10L will then say that it is searching, and you can go back to your Ultrasync Blue and select the searching icon, and then it should say 10L Pro, which you can then select, which will connect your DR-10L Pro to your Ultrasync Blue wirelessly over Bluetooth. Now, if you want to know that your DR-10L Pro is properly synced to your Ultrasync Blue, check the timecode number that's displayed on your Ultrasync Blue, and then hold down the play pause button on your DR-10L Pro, and it's going to show you the timecode, and it should sync up. You'll also notice that there is a T that is going to appear next to the battery indicator on your DR-10L Pro that is going to flash, and is going to be flashing at the same rate that the LED is flashing on your Ultrasync Blue, which is another way for you to tell, hey, these are blinking at the same rate. That means that they are synchronized. Congratulations, we are now halfway done. You are now going to want to reopen the menu on your Ultrasync Blue and go down to RF setting and set the RF channel to 1, and make sure that the RF region says US unless you are in a different region. Then go down to device mode and select timecode RF server, which basically means that you're telling all of your other timecode devices that you want all of the timecode settings to be controlled by the Ultrasync Blue. Speaking of other timecode devices, you're now going to want to grab your Ultrasync 1 device and hold the select button to power it on, just like the DR-10L. Then press the select button again to open the menu. Then go to set RF channel number and set that to channel 1, just like the Ultrasync Blue. Then you're going to go to timecode mode and select RF client. And voila, once you do this, the timecode numbers on your Ultrasync 1 should now perfectly sync up with the numbers on your Ultrasync Blue. And green light should then be flashing in synchronization on both of them, indicating that everything is synchronized properly between your DR-10L Pro, the Ultrasync Blue, and the Ultrasync 1. Last step, stick with me, we just need to get this Ultrasync 1 working with your camera. First, go back into the menu for the Ultrasync 1, select Sync Generator, and for Set Sync OP mode, set it to LTC, which stands for Linear Timecode. We're basically telling the Ultrasync 1, send the timecode signal out and send it to my camera. Then, in your box that came with the Ultrasync 1, you should have a variety of cables that are made to connect to different ports on your camera. But in my case, because I'm using a Sony A7S III, I'm going to grab the cable that has a timecode port connection on one end and a standard 3.5mm microphone jack connection on the other. Plug one end of the cable into the sync port of the Ultrasync 1 and plug the other end of the cable into the mic jack on your camera. Once you do that and turn on your camera, you may notice that your audio levels are almost completely peaking on your meters. This is by design. The way the timecode works is that if your camera does not have a dedicated timecode port, the timecode device is going to send a loud signal that is saved to your camera's audio file, and that can then be read by your editing software to sync up all of your audio and video footage using timecode. I'm sure you're not thinking, wait a second, Matt, I have a timecode device that's going to be plugged into the mic jack of my camera. What do I do if I want to record audio with my camera? For example, maybe you're like me and you like to use your camera's microphone to record ambient audio at a wedding, or maybe you usually use a shotgun microphone to record audio. What do you do in that case? Well, here's your workaround. You're going to want to invest in a 3.5mm audio splitter, which I will link to down in the video description as well with all the other equipment that I'm talking about here today. And you are going to want to plug your timecode generator cable into the left or right channel of this audio splitter, and then plug that audio splitter into your camera. Notice that when I do that, suddenly the camera is not recording timecode audio to both channels, it is only recording the left channel. I'm then free to grab a shotgun microphone that has a 3.5mm mic jack, plug that into the other port of my camera, and suddenly I'm recording timecode audio into the left channel and ambient audio into the right using my microphone. This is a fantastic workaround. Next, set your audio recording level so your audio isn't completely peaking if possible. You may need to turn your gain down to 1 or a low number like that to help with that. And with that, everything is now set up with the A7S III. Now, I'm sure you may be aware there is a timecode menu on the A7S III. It has multiple different settings, but because we're setting up timecode this way using audio, we do not need to adjust any of those settings because all of our time syncing is going to happen over this left audio channel. With that done, all you have to do is film your video and record your audio, and then once you are done, you will sync your audio and video using your video editor. In my case, I'm using DaVinci Resolve, which supports audio timecode out of the box and is going to enable you to sync your footage and audio using only 2 button clicks. If you are using another editor like Premiere Pro, for example, you may need to use a third-party app like LTC Convert from Video Toolshed to read the timecode that was recorded into your audio file and convert it to timecode that can then be read by your software. This LTC Convert software also supports Final Cut Pro if you need to use it. Back to Resolve now. Once you have imported your audio and video clips that you recorded on your video clip that has the timecode audio in it, right-click on it in the media pool, and here comes button click 1, select Update Timecode from Audio Track, which will update the video clip's timecode with the timecode audio recorded to the left audio channel. Then select both your video and audio clips at the same time, right-click on them, and here is button click 2. Select Auto Sync Audio based on timecode. Once you've done that, click on your video clip and drag it to your timeline, and you will see that your audio that you recorded with your DR-10L Pro is now perfectly synced with your camera footage. It's magical. Speaking of magical, I would highly recommend downloading my magical cheat sheet for those timecode settings and equipment down in the video description. I know I covered a lot today, and I want to make this as easy as possible for you to start implementing timecode into your videos. This cheat sheet is completely free and linked down in the video description. Also, while you're down there in the description downloading this cheat sheet, can you leave a comment and let me know if you want to see videos about other timecode devices and which ones you specifically want to see? Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.